You're listening to a podcast you can feel. Make sure you got both hands on the wheel. Doesn't matter whatever your style is. You know that nostalgia has mileage. That's the way we give it to you early. What time is it? Is it on the right 30? Doesn't matter. You just can't disturb. Fuck. Damn it. I'm going to redo this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Sorry, it's a radio thing I did.
Yeah.
Q, R, S, T, U, V.
I always cut those out, too.
Well, you never want to hit the hard P, especially first thing in the morning. Jazz Kang is talking, giving you the alphabet, giving you all the fine letters. All 26. Is there a 27th? We will find out. The answer is yes. It is the Enye. It has a tilde. It is used commonly in the Latin American languages. You need to know this because Bad Bunny's performing at the Super Bowl, whether you like it or not. He'll be there at halftime, as will we all. And tomorrow night, because this is a live podcast, right? We're going completely live as we're doing this.
No.
Yes, we are. This is a live podcast. You have to go in, log into, get on Friendster, get on MySpace, get on Quibi, and we'll fire this off live. We'll have this all going. So
MySpace.
Yeah. Dude, I miss MySpace. You know how much of an inconvenience it is now to have to text my top 8 friends each week and let them know where they are in the rankings. Hi, my name is Chaz Kangas. I'm a hip-hop artist out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, by way of Tromaville, New Jersey. My very first car was a 1985 Celebrity.
All right, now you got to tell me about this car because I've never
absolutely
heard of
do
it.
not. This car, it was my grandfather's final car. And I remember when he passed away in 2007, he still kept amongst his things, the final receipt he ever had for it when he purchased it that year. So it was kind of wild and kind of touching to see that. And I remember I got it while I was in high school because due to a health reason, he could no longer drive. He could no longer drive, but he would still get his license renewed when it would come time to renew, just for the sake of having the license, the power on that. But he physically could not. So I was gifted his car, and it was 1985. Quite that was it was indeed a year.
I like small cars.
We need more room.
Today, Chevrolet has a car for you, the midsize Celebrity.
Feel the room, ride in style, go in comfort every mile.
Enjoy midsize room with economy and a price that's surprisingly small. Celebrity.
Lots of stuff here. If this is today's Chevrolet, I like it.
And we need it.
Drive today, Chevy. Live today, Chevy.
Live it.
Chevy.
Result.
I was 16, 17. It's between 16 and 17, which 16 and a half, let's go with. It was one of those kind of unexpected things, but it was cool to have it. I also was someone who wasn't super excited about the prospect of driving at the time. Just for whatever reason, independence, driving cool. I was excited that my friends could drive, but when I started driving, I had just this constant fear that I was gonna get myself and everyone else on the road killed.
Oh, really?
I found out years later this is what's called OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I was diagnosed with that, and part of it I think was because the person who taught my driver's ed at my high school was essentially a one-man improv team of worst-case scenarios when driving. He would just pound on really hard, every day of the class. He'd tell us about some horrible accident and what caused it at different times. He'd show us the videos, and when he'd take us out for our like on the road behind the wheel test, he would do a thing where we'd be driving, and just regardless where it would be, if it'd be like on a freeway, neighborhood, wherever, he would just yell "stop" like at the top of his voice, and like if you didn't stop right away, he'd go, "You hit my dog," and then start going on about how I can't believe you hit my dog, and like really make you feel bad for hitting this non-existent imaginary dog. And I get driver safety is important, but he also said these things that years later. And I've talked to like my other friends because he taught at he wasn't a teacher at my high school, but the program was at my high school. The things he would say were these drivers' advice that just did not make sense, that no one would do. Like, let me know if you've ever heard this before. He said when you're driving, every 3 seconds you need to look into your rearview mirror.
Oh, no.
That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, looking in the rearview mirror is important, but like to have the constant looking back, so I'd always get worried that I'd always like have to do it and have to do it, and having OCD have that internal counting that if I don't look, but it's so silly because like it's behind you, like you're not being chased by a T-1000, so like why would I need to keep doing that? So it just had this nightmare constant scenarios of anytime I'd be behind the wheel of a car, something bad could and would happen. Thankfully, I'm gonna knock on wood here. Hope this doesn't pick up. I think I knocked enough, right? That was a quality knocking.
One more.
Okay. There we go.
There you go.
I have not had any incidents or situations happen yet where I've been the driver. I have been in. No, it's an Uber story, but that's maybe not. That's maybe for a different podcast, or this one at a later moment of it. Chapter break, spin-off series, franchise. But thankfully. It was really like the second car that I got that I really started feeling actually comfortable driving a car. And so in certain ways, like that car feels like my first, but in terms of the first automobile that was mine, it was this 1985 Celebrity. And it said Celebrity on the side of the car, like next to the backseat windows. It just had in perfect silver cursive, Celebrity.
Oh.
Just right in there next to the bottom like corner of the window. So someone is passing by, hey, what's that? Oh, that's my Celebrity. So it just feels it's involuntary that I say it like that, like if I'm describing the car, the Celebrity. So yeah, and when he got it, everything was entirely cleaned out. He had it in really good shape for at that point what was a 2-decade-old car. And the one thing he had in the back was his box of Kleenex. Otherwise everything else in there was all fresh, all new, all mine. So, yeah, the Celebrity. I don't know, because I'm an only child, and my dad's sister has 5 children, and so I've never discussed it with them. I don't know what their reaction was to me getting the Celebrity. I think they all had probably had cars by that point, so I don't think it would have made a difference to them. It's never come up. It's up with the holidays approaching. Maybe it's time to approach the topic of the celebrity in the room, I guess it would be. So... But no, it was it is the best part about having that car is being able to answer the question, hey, what was your first car? And I could say, I had a 1985 Celebrity. And I will say, like, music has helped me, like, as become a better driver. I don't know if anyone's ever talked the impact of music with driving in cars. And yeah. So when I was first going through OCD treatment, I started seeing a therapist for OCD and just getting more comfortable with driving thanks to a lot of that.
What were some of your symptoms?
Yeah. So there's a number of different types of OCD. For me, it was not like counting based, but feeling like in terms of like a safety sort of based thing and having to like follow like rigid rules in order to feel safe, which is why being told something like look in your rearview mirror every 3 seconds is something that just really stuck with me and just had that intense like heart beating fear of something like that I had to do.
Yeah.
Because like you grow up and and like especially like in a very old school Catholic upbringing, and the rules of private Catholic school, you have to follow X, Y, and Z, and they just drill that into you. And I kind of didn't know that I had it for years because I moved to New York in 2004 to go to New York University, where I got a BA in cinema studies. And it's very common for people when they don't who have OCD and they live in New York, they don't know they have OCD until they leave New York. Okay. So because New York, like I love it. It's my city. I adore everything about New York. I was there 11 years. But I was raw dogging New York on OCD without even knowing it.
Raw dogging New York.
Because like it's, and I love New York, but it's a cesspool. It's my cesspool. It's my favorite cesspool, but it's a cesspool. And so when you'd have like, hand sanitizer, like regularly washing your hands, you come in from outside, like what is normal behavior for New York and most other parts of the country, people would be like, hey man, what are you doing? Do you need to wash your hands every time you come in from outside and things like that. So it wasn't until after I was in New York for 11 years, I lived in LA for a year and then got an offer to be on radio out here. And I hadn't worked in radio before. I'd mostly done television and print journalism. And then when the opportunity arose to be in radio, because I've always loved radio, and so when the chance arrived for it, I took it. And so I went from LA to back here to Minneapolis, and it was like living here. It kind of showed up that, you know, those habits that I had in New York were still here when they really sort of weren't needed here. And I figured maybe it's time to kind of, like, you know, like look into something for that. So, and I'm thankful I did. So,
I've had OCD too, minor, but mine was, I don't know how to put it. Like, I need to even out. If I touch something with my right hand, I needed to touch it with my left hand. I always thought, like, okay, I'm kind of weird this way. But I never thought it was, well, OCD, obviously. When you're growing up, you're just like, it's just you, kind of. And I suppose when you're in certain moments, people are pointing it out and saying, what the fuck is wrong with you?
well, you know, you feel just those patterns that
patterns.
that comfort
you
and that
have,
sort of balance.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, I definitely felt that specific part of it too. You know, I remember, like, as a kid when, you know, playing video games or playing pinball and feeling, you know, you need to do this thing on this side of the screen while I do the other side of the screen. It never went as far for me as, like, because some people who have that think that if they don't, you know, touch something 3 times, planes are going to fall out of the sky.
Oh, yeah.
But I definitely have done the thing where it's like, you know, hey, if I make this basket, you know, XYZ is going to happen. If I miss it, I don't. And then when you miss it, you blame yourself for something not happening. Like, yeah, that's a very real OCD thing. So, and then especially like when you're driving and doing something like that, because you have to, you know, adhere to like these certain rules, and you beat yourself up if you. But some of these things, like, you know, like we were told, like, you know, put the turn signal on, like, when you reach halfway the block, like halfway towards the block to get to the thing.
Oh, yeah.
And if I wouldn't, like, put it up at the time, and I just, like, feel, and it would be fine, you know, knowing I'm not, like, last second turning it on and I'm going to a stoplight anyway. But just those sort of things that would happen. And music wise, it's funny because when I started going through treatment and getting more comfortable behind being in the wheel of a car, because I love Christmas, and by chance still in the car I had the copy of the Mariah Carey Christmas album. So when I start to feel like a bit of those symptoms and anxiety come up, I would just have it set, I'd hit play, and then the All I Want for Christmas is playing. So I don't know how many people in the world are genuinely soothed and calmed by that opening do 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 do, but that made me feeling better driver. So that was post celebrity. That was when I was driving a 2001 Lexus. So I was driving that Lexus once and going through a snowstorm with my mom, and my mom once said in the car, she said, you know, cheering the car on, like, come on, Bessie. And I'm like, Mom, it's a Lexus. You can't call it Bessie. And she said, oh, what would you call it? And I said, just off the top of my head, I said, Beatrice. And so since then, like, that second car, like, I lovingly referred to forever as Beatrice. So
Never B for short.
No, you say the full Beatrice. If you're saying celebrity, then you got to say Beatrice. You know, which part of the balance, the proper thing for a car. Did you name any of your cars?
No, never did. A few people have that I've had on there, but never thought to. Also, off the subject, Chaz. I love that name.
Thank you.
What is that from? I've never met a Chaz.
Yeah. So my dad named me after himself. His first name was Charles. And the compromise with my mom was that because she wanted to name me Kyle. And she said, if we're going to name me Charles, then I can't be a junior. I'd have to be the second and have my name as a Roman numeral 2 at the end. So that was the compromise that was reached. But then my dad would go by Chuck. And for the first 6 years of my life, I went by Charlie. And then in first grade, every story we'd read, whenever there'd be the character who was like the screw up or the dummy or the person who'd cause everything to go wrong, they'd always be named Charlie. So second grade began, kind of like age 7's like the last grade you can really change what you want people to call you. So I'm like, I'm going by Chaz. So from that point forward, I've been Chaz.
Okay. I always wondered, like, I've heard that name before.
Yeah. And there used to be like certain, I don't want to say rules, but like commonplace things where if someone had Chaz with 2 Z's, that was Chaz as its own name, but Chaz with 1 Z was short for Charles. I've learned in more recent years that rule's completely out the window. So, and it's also just, you know, it's the thing too with like having it's cool like pulling out a credit card things and having like that Roman numeral 2 at the end of my name, but in a digital world, there's one, when you have the same name as your dad, and it's so easy for records to get screwed up together. And two, when you have a Roman numeral in your name, when you're entering things digitally at the airport, you're no longer the second, you're Lee or Lai, or in some cases, like they'll just put it together so it's Kangisli at the end of it, or Kangasai. So it's made things challenging. So if people take one thing from this, maybe don't name your kids after yourself.
Oh my God, yeah. Please don't.
I'm not going to tell people how to raise their kids, but
I will.
Okay, yeah. So yeah. It's just personally speaking, like, you know, and at least give like a wildly different middle name.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Your brother and I, Nancy, sorry, you're not on the podcast, but I just got to bring this
Our
up.
studio audience.
We were.
So my brother is a Charles. Charlie.
Yep, Charlie. We were talking about.
Ever go by Chester?
No.
Yeah.
No, never. No. It was more like Chuck, Charlie. Charles is his actual name, but like.
And then we were talking about like William going into Bill, and he brought up Richard. And he was like, how do you get Dick from Richard? And Cole was like, well, you got to buy him dinner first.
But it's.
I haven't heard this record. I just bought a record from you.
But you do love it.
I do
You
love
adore
it.
it. You
Fucking
just knew.
love it.
Because music now, you can feel it. It's vibes. It's aura.
Oh, that
So it's
fucking
art.
okay. I love the green vinyl too.
Thank
when
you.
I walked away, I was like, wait, I got to pull this out. Check it out.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so wait, rap, hip hop?
I know. Yeah. I'm as surprised as you, but I've always loved hip hop. I grew up at a time when hip hop was both still at counterculture, but both beginning to really just have a pop culture permeance. Like when I was a child, rap songs were like appearing in cereal commercials finally, and in bumpers for afternoon animated series. And I just always loved the medium of rhyming and just the sound of it. And when I got to like mid-grade school age, like middle school age, and when you grow up as a kid, and you love comics, you love wrestling, you love these larger-than-life characters, and you start seeing all these music videos, and so many rappers just felt like the real-life extension of that. All these, larger-than-life personalities, Outkast, Busta Rhymes, E40, Redman. And it just felt like from that part, you're like, oh, I want to see what this person is doing. Oh, this sounds good, and just starting to follow through the aesthetics of that. And I've grown to just have this huge passion for hip hop because it, in so many ways, is one of the last major American art forms that hasn't had a homogenization coast to coast. And you can still trace the origins because everyone who makes hip-hop comes from some sort of very local influence. Like, it's still very much shaped by the community it's around and that local history of music that it's around. Like, the easy example is, East Coast artists don't sound like West Coast artists, but even on a smaller level, Houston, Texas artists don't sound like Port Arthur, Texas artists. North Dakota hip-hop artists don't sound like South Dakota hip-hop artists. There's so many. Memphis artists don't sound like Nashville artists. There's such a different level of influence, and just being able to follow those family trees and hear where all those paths came from, and the beauty of being in Minnesota where so many used CD stores that have everything just kind of trickle upward, and just falling in love with it from there. So at some point, like, I never had the moment where I was like, I'm gonna start rapping at some point. Like, I found a few years back a VHS tape of me like freestyling at age 4, which is wild.
Really?
Just because I liked rhyming and the idea of it being over a beat. And I remember in junior high, like 7th grade was when my friends and I started getting really serious about it. And this was like right on the turn of the millennium, so it seemed like the music industry is huge. This is a good thing to put all our eggs in this basket. It's going to be like this forever. And we just loved rhyming, and I think every rapper starts with taking the rap songs you like and putting your own words into it and turning it into your own rhymes, and eventually you start making things entirely on your own.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then, when you can rap in high school, it becomes, I think it might have been Bizarre of D12 who once in an interview said, if you can rap in high school, it's like a superpower.
Oh, yeah.
Because being able to have like this thing, whether it's a party trick, especially if you can freestyle, which I could.
A party trick.
Yeah, and then you're being able to bust something like that out and having something to, shape your identity around and shape what you're doing. And this was during the time when CDRs were affordable and accessible. So, putting out my own like albums and mixtapes in high school and being able to sell those. And then going to NYU and being in New York, the home of hip hop where it came from, I especially fell like entrenched with the freestyle scene and the freestyle rap battle scene. So I wound up as my job, like paying through NYU, was being in the freestyle rap battles.
Really?
So yeah, all around the East Coast, I booked all my classes to be 2 or 3 days a week, to do essentially to have like 1 6-hour day and 1 10-hour day. And then those other days, like I would be either doing the battles around New York or taking buses up and down the East Coast, finding online where they were, because it was like the start of the MySpace era, where it was really easy to track down where open mics were happening, where events were happening, where battles were happening. And being in New York, where you have so many options, whether it's the Long Island Railroad, whether it's a Greyhound, to get to all these places, and being able to really travel. And what I find about that, on top of it just being fun and, you know, participating in something I enjoy, and money was pretty cool too, the chance to be in front of so many different audiences who all want such different things out of the same medium, and being able to create things on the spot and really learn how to read and play to crowds and keep things moving. Because ultimately, even when battles are judged by judges, it comes down to, when you're in a battle, making the crowd feel like you won, but also making the crowd feel like they're having a good time. Because there's a lot of battle rappers will tell you that there is no line, that nothing's off limits. I don't agree with that, because I think there are certain things that can be too far in a battle, and if you've ever been at a party when like a couple starts fighting and it like gets like really hard, it can make a night out of the club like feel like that. I think it's just, you know, learning how to read crowds, and that was probably the most valuable thing I took from that, and being able to bring that into levels of hosting, later bringing it into teaching, later bringing it into everything I've done since. It was just so cool learning how to read crowds like that, and having fun along the way. So,
what was your first show like?
Wow. So I played shows. It was referred to as a punk band, because I would always refer to it in third person as a band, because I was weird, but it was myself and my Casio. Had a thing called Electric Love Machine when I was in high school. So I'd start doing shows. I'd play on bills with punk bands, but it would just be me and my Casio plugged in, and I'd just hit the demo buttons different times. Very Wesley Willis inspired. And make it things around that. So like those were my first like sort of like, and it would just be something where, because I had just this, when you have like only child Leo confidence in and so those were kind of but in terms of like my first like sort of hip hop shows, because I had learned from just reading every interview I could with every rapper growing up the importance of the live show, and making sure, number one, you look different from anything else that's on a bill. So those first few times, and this is like my first really starting to do them like in New York, I tried to incorporate just stuff that I really wanted to see, like that I enjoyed from shows. So like some like 80s style steps when I was doing it, because at that point no one was like really doing any sort of like, you know, movements like with it. They were just, you know, kind of holding the mic and rapping at the crowd. And I just
What year is this?
This is 2005 2006.
Okay.
2004 2005 2006, around 2004 2005, all great years. And so I started doing that, and then I just started being like, okay, what can I do to make myself like seem like really different? And sometimes it would be because it was, you know, it was a kind of a sarcastic time. So I'd see at the time people were very much anti-major labels, anti-corporations. And so I would just go out and I would just start just occasionally like shouting out, just like, you know, big ups to Hollywood Video, you know, just things like that. Just these things, just to be different, doing the different sort of crowd interactions at the time. And it'd be kind of thing, because in New York, like, and I'd always read interviews growing up, and in New York, if you're not booed off the stage, consider that you did well.
Yeah.
And people would often not know, like it would hit them kind of out of nowhere with, because of how I look. And because even like then, like, you know, at that point, I was pasty as a British corpse for a lot of that. And so people wouldn't know. I also had like very long curly hair, because I grew it out in college to donate it. Shouts out to Wigs for Kids. And so a lot of those shows, like I would just make sure that, you know, if they like it or not, because, you know, taste is subjective, they're not going to forget me, and they're going to at least appreciate, you know, and recognize the authenticity of it, and have the heart to keep doing it. Because the thing with New York that I think people get confused on it, especially in hip hop, it's not some big safe haven, everyone is welcome. You're not going to immediately be praised for what you do, which I think the kind of misinterpretation sort of exists of it. But it is very much a city that rewards repeated tenacity. So when you stick to your guns and you keep doing something, you can win people over. You will earn that respect and you will earn that enjoyment.
Totally.
And so when you can like stay in their mind and you can keep doing that, the ultimate goal is to like, basically have people have an opinion on you. And then when that becomes a positive thing, you make sure people are having a good time. When you're making sure, the baseline should be you're not ruining the night for everyone else and the people who are coming before or later. And then to keep going and keep stacking on that to eventually like rocking the crowd, getting that response. And, I remember my first battles out there and just with me looking in so many different ways and just sort of anticipating what someone's going to say to you. And you eventually hear, I was hearing, Hanson jokes. I was hearing Chucky jokes, both the Rugrat and the homicidal doll. So many and eventually it gets to a point where, you just start being ready and, to spar. And then when you can turn something in that moment and create something there, it's the closest that, rap comes to jazz, to just create that freestyle thing in that moment. And it gives people the enjoyment of happy that they were there in that room. And this is also the dawn of YouTube. So people would see footage of it and they'd be like, hey, I want to be there at that event. And Freestyle Mondays was the big one I made my name off of because that was when they had a live band playing the beats. The time it would happen, so it would be on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 5th Street in Manhattan on a Monday night / Tuesday morning at 1 a.m. So the least desirable time slot one could ever want. But it became such a thing that it would be packed like shoulder to shoulder there. People would come through to it.
Really?
To be this whole like starting the week sort of thing. And people would often, stay up. So I'm sure a lot of people were very tired on Tuesday morning. But it became just this major, massive attraction. And that was really, because at this point, like 2005, 2006, hip hop culturally was especially New York hip hop, was kind of in terms of cultural, I don't want to say relevancy, but interest is kind of a low. Like in the entire year of 2006, exactly one rap album was released that went platinum that year. And that was T.I.'s King.
Oh, really?
And it still didn't sell as much as the top selling comedy album that year, which was the Dane Cook album. So there was very much, yeah. And so like a lot of like the mid-aughts, like, even like the hip hop that would be popular, people wanted their hip hop to not contain the actual act of rapping. Like Gnarls Barkley birthed so many people who were, my rapping is too good to rap on my rap record. So, but we still managed to cultivate just having the space that people could go to find it and like really relish in it. And so it would be like this 16 MC tournament. They'd spin a wheel, the topic it landed on, you'd have to freestyle and like battle your opponent about. And from there, and having the stars line to have that also be the dawn of YouTube, that allowed me when I was reach out to other battles across the East Coast to be like, hey, I'm Chaz, I won this thing. And it allowed word to spread and being able to then go and have those experiences. So yeah, and a lot of times too, because when other battle things would happen, like it wouldn't be like that at Freestyle Mondays, but other battle locations, people would come, they'd have like the people they brought with them standing behind them as like a support sort of thing. And again, because I always thought in hip hop be different, so I would just show up by myself. So you'd have like this visual contrast, on stage of having 5-6 people behind one person, and then you'd have like just me. And then, but I would be like directly talking to the audience, kind of like engaging them instead of like looking directly only at the opponent, because they're the ones, even if they're not the judge, their reactions are what you want. That's going to shape what you're creating in the moment. So, yeah, and it was very fun, and from there, just being able to do that, and it opened a number of doors, and just being a part of that sort of community and just those sort of connections. We were talking about this at Twin Cities Con earlier today. My freshman dorm mate was Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. And so the earliest footage of him rapping is from Labor Day weekend 2004, and it's us in the basement of Goddard Hall, or NYU dorm, freestyling back and forth because there's this thing called this Friday jam session that everyone who's a magician would come down and play, and people could come in, sing, or rap with it. And so it's cool that the event horizon of everything that he's gone and done to have been like a part of that. And then 2008, I rapped on Sick Boy, the mixtape / album that he put out, and on a song called My Hoodie. So, that's kind of cool to have like that on part of things too. And then rap music also, like doing music for AEW, All Elite Wrestling. I do the entrance music for a wrestler named Angelico. Like, it's cool how that thing's happened. And to now, the current project I have, it's called the Troma Project, which you were kind enough to support and pick up a copy of.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm so excited to hear this. Yeah. Why Troma? Why'd you pick this?
So I've always had a love of Troma. When I was 12, 13.
Wait, what year were you born?
1986.
Okay.
80. So it's I know it may I may not have to give off the born in '86 look to it. So I'm very much you know, I was born 1 year after The Celebrity was released. Okay. I think that's the best temporally. When I was the year is 2000, I was in 8th grade. Big South Park fan. And by chance, I'm at a Hollywood Video, and they have a copy of a movie called Cannibal the Musical, and I recognized Trey Parker from South Park, and I remembered reading when South Park first got huge, the Rolling Stone article about Trey Parker and Matt Stone, how they met in college in Colorado, and how they had made a feature-length film called Cannibal the Musical. And be like, oh, that'd be a cool thing to see sometime. And then to see that Hollywood Video actually had it. So, okay, cool, I'm going to rent this. So back then, when you'd rent a tape and you couldn't just skip past the trailers unless you fast forwarded, but they would all be right there. And there were all these movies I'd never heard of. There was Sergeant Kabuki-Man NYPD, Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo, Bugged, Tromeo and Juliet. And then right before the movie was an introduction, which I found out years later was directed by James Gunn. And so this introduction for Cannibal the Musical was with the Toxic Avenger, who I'd recognized from the Toxic Crusaders cartoon that I watched growing up.
Oh, yeah. God,
and Lloyd Kaufman, the president of Troma Studios and creator of the Toxic Avenger. So I'm like, oh, so there's like this whole and when you're a kid who loves these fandoms, you love, like the Marvel Universe and, the Troma neighborhood, I guess, would be the equivalent to that. And there's this whole world, there's this whole movement. And then I loved Cannibal the Musical, so the next week I rented the Toxic Avenger, and it was this hybrid of horror and comedy. And I didn't know you could do that, like mix genres together like that.
Yeah.
And then to read more about, looking up online and realizing, so they're doing this independently. Like, this is not like they just decided they want to make movies, and they're making their movies their way. And so myself and like my friends Matt and Andrew, we both got really into Troma. And at one point Matt rented a movie called Vegas in Space, which is a sci-fi drag film that was shot over the course of, I believe, 5 or 7 years inside one person's apartment. And they just kept changing the background for it when they filmed it. It's like Miss X and I'm trying to think of the other, it has some classic 80s drag performers who are in it. The name one's unfortunately escaped me at the moment. I'm not old. Doris Fish was in it. And we knew nothing of drag. We just saw this really cool sci-fi, really different movie. And we realized, if they did this, we could start making movies. So that started us on the path of making movies and voraciously consuming Troma and any Troma thing we get our hands on. Fortunately, Lloyd Kaufman has always been very accessible, even at that age. So
yeah.
When I was 13, I went to San Diego for Comic-Con with a family member, and getting to meet Lloyd, and he was super supportive.
Oh, shit.
He was so cool. And just kind of being very open. So in the years following that, just being able to email him, and then my freshman year of high school, me and my friends shot a feature-length film. And so, and just because we had just that kind of and it's wild in retrospect looking back on myself and my 14, 15, 16-year-old friends at the time giving up our high school spring break to make a movie together.
Yeah.
Just, shooting on camera and then written with a full script and everything. I'm very fortunate to my friends who did that. So shouts out to Matt, Nina, and Becca, and Max, and Costa. And so the beauty of that is, and then Lloyd was always reaching out and being like, hey, can you film a cameo for this thing we're doing? And be like, sure. And then having Lloyd Kaufman in something would then open doors for me being able to reach out to different indie record labels, being like, hey, I'm making this movie, Lloyd Kaufman's, and be like, oh yeah, we're familiar with Lloyd Kaufman, we know that, and then getting permission to use music, and then just opening so many doors all through. And the thing is, Lloyd, Troma, Toxic Avenger is a household name. They're, they're cult, they're indie, but they're huge. He doesn't have to do this and be so cool, but he does. I think he genuinely wants to make, things better for the next generation. So it's always been a really cool benefit. And I think, and people have a lot of different opinions about Troma movies. I definitely have my opinions about different things in the Troma catalog.
Right.
But, whether you can love Surf Nazis Must Die, you can hate blood-sucking freaks, but you'll never forget Fatty Drives the Bus. Troma movies, no matter what you say about them, someone had an idea, they saw it to completion, they made it themselves, and Troma gave it a platform to put it out to the world. So, and just meeting people through different just loves of Troma, things would happen over the years. Back in 2021, there's a podcast named Zach Bynes, who has the Talkin' Troma podcast that I was a guest on to talk about Death by Temptation, a movie I love. And while we were on it, he just casually tweeted a few days later, I had a dream that Chaz and Extra Cool, who's a rapper out of Denver, made a song about Troma. And I had not ever spoken to Extra Cool at the time, but I just, I was familiar with his work, enjoyed it. So we reached out, started talking, and then we made a song called Lloyd K. It was a Troma tribute. And that it was produced by this guy, Awareness. And that wound up being the event Horizon, because Lloyd heard it, loved it, reached out to me and said, hey, you want us to put out like a vinyl of your music? And I'm like, that's cool, but I was thinking, instead of just putting, it's cool to put out something I made. I'd be like, hey, why don't we, because Troma's 50th anniversary was coming up. So I was like, hey, what if we just did like a full-on like Troma tribute release? And he said, okay, cool, you can do that. So he gave us his full blessing, and it was a very ambitious idea. But I reached out to my buddy J57, who's a phenomenal producer who I've known since my New York years. He's also produced for Method Man of the Wu-Tang Clan, Action Bronson, Joey Badass, and he and I every year since 2017. So I've released an original Christmas song every holiday season since 2006, where 100% of the money goes to Wigs for Kids and RAIN, the Rape Abuse Incest National Network.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice. And because I like the idea of Christmas, and I like the idea of where in the entirety something just goes. So since 2017, J57 and I have exclusively done that. So I pitched him, because knowing how good he was with samples, how would you like to do this full Troma project? And he was down. So, and then his protege Bald Halfwit was down as well, who was also a Troma fan. So Lloyd giving us the full blessing of 50 years of Troma movies, and it's a long process, because every sound you hear is, some of it's like the scores, some of it's songs that are in the movies, some of it is like the sound effects you've had to manipulate to sound like a drum hit or a bass line, and it is just this deep cornucopia. So even if you're not familiar with Troma movies at all, you've never seen one, you have no idea what it is, we didn't make it one of those gimmicky face value.
Right,
it's not
you
like I'm the Toxic Avenger and I'm here, say. We made it because it was more about the aroma to Troma, the aura of it, this independent aura, this, the themes that Troma has, like being a part of it. So if you are a Troma fan, like if you listen to Clubhouse Alive 91, you'll hear references to the film Troma's War, but it's not just like me saying da-da-da, like in Troma's War. It's like a character's line of dialogue will be the beginning or end of a rhyme. So, and then maybe later if you watch it and check it out, and you can pull that line and, oh, that's where that's from. So I like hiding the Easter eggs in there, and there's a lot scattered around it. So
that is so fucking cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So because I wanted to make something that on the surface level just worked as a hip hop album, like a great sample based hip hop album. Like really, only the first 2 tracks are explicitly about the history of Troma and what Troma is, and then from then onward it's just off to different themes that Troma has, whether that's like environmentalism, whether that is independence, the different things that have been echoed throughout their movies. And also because Troma has so many different films from so many parts of the world, I reached out to so many different artists from all over the map to be a part of this, and they are all Troma fans or just love the independent spirit of it, and then became converted to Troma as a result and just started taking part in it as well. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. And yeah, it's been a really fun, and so 3 years later, it's finally I pitched it to Four Finger Distro, which is ran by DJ Halo, who was a DJ I knew from my time in New York, and he was absolutely down with it. And the cover art was watercolor done by a gentleman named Michael Galkin, who was he's currently he's done stuff for American Apparel, for Nike, for Diplo, for Ender WK, but before all of that, he got his start doing poster art and DVD art for Troma.
Oh, really?
So it's cool to have him back in the fold. He did this beautiful watercolor of me with the melted Troma logo in my hands, and then it was Lloyd's idea to name it 50 Years of Real Fan Toxic Hip Hop. So and he's the brilliant man. He's the man behind it, and his new movie Power of Positive Murders, I believe, coming out next year. It's his take on Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. So what more could you want than a Dostoevsky via Tromaville? So. From the writer of Notes from Underground and the director of The Toxic Avenger comes Power of Positive Murder. So, yeah, and it's ultimately, to give Troma its flowers after 50 years, and also with Troma's 50th anniversary and hip-hop's 50th anniversary coinciding. Each track on the record, I try to do a different style of hip-hop on it. So there's one that sounds very West Coast chill vibe to it, one that's very syllable stacking, rapid fire on it, and one that's very house music, hip house, from the early 90s style on it. So it's just kind of a great way to just meld my two passions together and make something new out of it. And I'm just thrilled that this idea has come to exist.
God damn. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
You had long hair at one point?
At 2 points.
Okay.
Yeah. I grew my hair out in college to donate it, and I donated it to Wigs for Kids because they just do direct like giving of the hair. And so, and then I did it again during the pandemic because I did not feel comfortable going to get the haircut. So I figured if I'm gonna be inside, why not? I'll grow it out. So
How long?
Well, I have curly hair, so like when it was wet, it would wind up going about halfway down my back.
Oh shit!
But when you look at it, like it's because it would be like definitely long, but it just because of the curls, it would only go like just like a little past my shoulder. So, but yeah, it's that those Finnish genetics. So, yeah, it was cool to do it. Like I'm glad to have some good come from it was when we were all like stuck in for a while, and doing it in college. I can't remember. I think I just wanted to do it just to say I did it once, and then I did it, and then it's like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again, and then lo and behold, the chance to do it again happened. So, yeah, and Wigs for Kids is just a great organization. So, yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, thank you.
Follow-up question.
Follow up.
Man bun or no man?
Man bun.
I never did the man bun.
Okay.
I didn't. The closest I did to it was because of my curly hair. Like the ponytail wouldn't look like a ponytail. Like I would call it a Pegasus mane. And so, because it would have just like this different look to it, but I definitely would wind up having to do that for like the last like 6 months of it, like would require that. So, but yeah, no, I never just because I've never been like a. It just.
Yeah.
I got no beef with the man bun. It just some things are just to each their own. To thine own self be true. Yeah. I have a 10-year history with Lyft and Uber. That sounded nefarious and salacious and ominous. No, I've because New York got Uber and Lyft very early, and because like Lyft was so strict on its background checks, it made people in New York feel a lot more comfortable. So I've been using both for a very long time. 10 years. A decade's a long time now. I don't know. Time is how mortals measure their own decay. But so I've definitely had like the ups and downs and like as the evolution of the ride share thing goes.
Okay.
There's one accident I've been in while being an Uber passenger. It was in spring of 2022. And it was in Minneapolis, like downtown Minneapolis, like approaching uptown Minneapolis, because for those who don't know, uptown Minneapolis is south of downtown Minneapolis, because why should life make sense? And as we're driving through on the turnoff, this car that's next to us hits the side of the car, but it's like a Ben-Hur style, like, wheel going into the wheel and pushes us into the median. And then we wind up like going into the ditch, and the guy like pulls in the car in front of us. And so I'm there like with the driver. Thankfully I have my safety belt on. He has his belt on as well. And we're both just kind of like sitting there, and this is my first time in anything like this. And so I'm kind of still stunned and processing it. And then the driver kind of starts softly kind of chuckling, because he can see like, and I'm realizing later it was a nervous laugh, because the driver in the car in front of us is getting out of the car and running towards us. And he goes, my driver's voice goes, he's coming here, he's pissed. And so, because the driver's clearly at fault to hit us, because like, I mean, you don't get repeatedly Ben-Hur'd and then into a median unless you see the other cars there. There's lanes for a reason. So then he runs out of the car and starts yelling at the driver from the window, blaming our driver for making him do that. And then full force punches the window on the driver's side. So we're sitting there like watching it, and I'm stunned, and as my driver is, and we're waiting for this guy to like sort of like calm down. So eventually he says, the signal will go into like that parking lot, like across there, and talk about it. So both cars like kind of like drive out of the ditch. We signal through it, and then we get in there, and they both get out and they start talking and yelling at each other about figuring out who's to blame. I'm sitting in the back seat, and this is my first time in this sort of situation. I'm wondering, do I need to be here? Like,
should I get out and walk away?
Yeah, could I do that? So I then choose. I get out and I take a step, and so I call the Uber helpline. I'm like, hey, I'm in an Uber that was just in an accident, and it wasn't my driver's fault. And I explained to them what happened. They said, okay, can you tell us what happened? So I explained to them again, like a second time, because I'm sure they have to like take the copious notes and whatnot. And then I said to him, hey, do I have to stay around for this? And they said, no, you don't. And I said, okay, cool, because I don't want to be around here, because this guy's getting pretty angry. And they said, yeah, no, you have no responsibility here. It's between two drivers. You can follow up. Do you need to go to the hospital? And I said, because like my neck was hurting. And I'm like, but you still have that sort of adrenaline. You don't know. So I'm just like, I just want to like walk for a bit, to figure things out and just remove myself from the situation. And so as I'm like on the phone, like the driver who punched the driver's side window looks at me and says, "You and I are going to talk after this." And I go,
shit.
"Okay." And I'm not going to talk to this guy. I've decided in my head. I'm just like, okay. And what am I going to say? Like, nuh-uh. Like, no, we're not, bucko. Good sir. So I figure, this guy's going to be too busy arguing with this other guy. So I then like walk down the street, and I wound up like walking for a good like 15 minutes, and I walked to a record store we have in Minneapolis called Electric Fetus. Free plug for them. Yeah, wonderful record store. They also have my music there on compact disc and vinyl.
It's still around.
So, Electric Fetus, yeah.
Okay.
You can't kill the fetus. So also the name of an Esham album. So then like my neck like continued to hurt. So like I reached out like to Uber, because Uber gave me like the insurance thing and the process through it. So I found I went through a follow up like the next day to the hospital, and I was evaluated and for still having like the neck pain, and they said probably it is just these things are going to happen, and it sets in like in the days following that. So I got recommended a medical masseuse, and then Uber and their insurance covered all that. I had like 3 sessions with it, spanned over like a few weeks, and I did feel a lot better. Like the first like day after, and like for a few days after, I had like just like these headaches and like in this lower back pain, just because like I do not recommend being in a car that gets hit by another car. Can't stress this enough.
Don't recommend.
Not a fan.
Okay.
Not a fan.
No bueno.
Yeah, not good. If I had to say like my least favorite things that have happened to me in a car, probably the least favorite.
Yeah.
This is my room temperature take. So thankfully, as far as I know, and like because we're like 3 years out, there wasn't any physical or mental like long-term effects of it. But I did, because the person who spoke to me from the service said, "Hey, would you, because if there is like something regarding like legalities, you can call back and follow up." And I said, "Okay." So I did I called back and followed up. So is anything like happening like legally, like between the two drivers? And they said, "Well, no, because apparently the other driver was also driving for a rideshare company. They didn't have a passenger at the time, but because of that, they had that company's." So, and that company and their insurance company decided that my driver was the one at fault. Whereas, my driver's company and them thought that the other driver was at fault. I generally think a good rule of thumb, if someone gets out of their car and runs at your window and punches it, they're at fault. Call me crazy.
Yeah.
But so it wound up being this like stalemate, and like this you can't stalemate. I don't need another word for that. I can pull out it's a fancy 3-syllable one, and so nothing wound up happening with that, and I'm not gonna like give the time to sort of pursue and whatever. So massages were great though, fantastic, like just wonderful. Highly recommend getting massages just in general, medical when you're working with a trained professional and getting insurance to pay for it. It's a beautiful thing.
I always avoid. I don't know. It hurts too much.
Massages?
Yeah. I'm such a little sensitive bitch. Every time I get massaged by my wife here, I'm always like, it hurts. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not used to it.
You ever gotten a pedicure?
No, but I would.
Yeah.
First of all,
Not above it.
he doesn't need it because he has baby soft feet.
Baby soft.
Like, ridiculous.
These feet have not seen a day of work in their life.
I'm like, do you not walk every day? What is this? But yeah, I think you would be a little freaked out around people around your toes.
Yeah, a little bit.
I gotcha.
All right, so you recommend a pedicure?
Because I had a foot surgery a few years back due to an ingrown toenail. And,
oh fuck!
Yeah,
really.
Also not a fan. Yeah. And I was told the 2 options here. I should warn people. This isn't going to get too graphic, but it's going to get just graphic enough.
Let's do it.
I was told you can either have the toenail removed and wait for it to grow back.
Ooh.
Or you can get a pedicure.
Okay.
And just start regularly getting pedicures. And it's like, do I want to go through a surgery, a second surgery, and have to, follow up on that? Or make time for myself to feel amazing like every 6 to 8 weeks?
Okay, yeah,
I think I know what I'm gonna do. Like, but yeah, I love doing it. Just like the foot massage there,
Yep.
and just the.
So you kept it up?
Yeah, I kept it up, and like I just kept doing it. Like,
Hell
it's
yeah.
a great way. It's just such a full body decompress and feels amazing. And there's the one I go to here in Minneapolis. It's called Nail Cops. They used to be in the Skyway. Now they moved to a new location, and their logo is like 2 hands holding a gun that has a rose coming out of it, and their motto is to serve and protect your nails. I may be paraphrasing it, but yeah, they're amazing there. So they do fantastic work. So.
You ever do a mani-pedi?
I have done manis in the past, but the petty's like always like the main thing for me to be sure to get. Like
A few years ago, I thought a mani-pedi was a manly pedicure. I thought it was just called a mani-pedi.
One of those like I'm getting that with. I like that there's the I in there, so it's like my mani-pedi. Not like I'm getting my dude pet. I'm getting my hard
no
as
idea.
nails. Like I'm getting my dude nail. I think there actually was one on Shark Tank, like in LA, called Dude Nails, or because they made this hyper masculine like bro pedicure place. And it's
God.
like, yeah, I'm just thinking like, what are they doing? Like just gonna like smell like like Jack Daniels and Axe body spray.
You're going to use a chainsaw to like trim those nails.
Yeah, or just some like mini machete, and it's gonna be like some like shirtless dude with like barbed wire tattoos who's doing it, and it's like instead of like calming music, you just hear like man. Now I'm debating like definitely could we market this? Get to hit up.
I think we could,
we're on a podcast now. We could hit the Rogan sphere. Get the come to Protein Nails.
Protein.
Yeah. So but yeah, it's I recommend it, and it's and always tip in cash. Like it's a good rule in general, but especially if you're getting a pedicure, like just do that. Like they're doing a great job. So yeah, Nail Cops, free plug for them. So I have no stake in that company. I have no dog in that fight. I'm not part of that industry, but I recommend good quality Minnesota. Yes, I do. This is my unofficial endorsement of Nail Cops. So yeah. So especially if you're in a car accident or not, there's two types of people I recommend get pedicures: people who've been in car accidents and people who haven't. So I think that's fitting the target, the TA, as it were. So I will say one other car story on a happier car story. When I was 5 years old, I remember going with my mom when she was buying she was buying a new car, and it was like the second car. When you're a kid, the cars that you're born around, like those are like the only cars you think, and you spend so much time in there. So the big milestone moment of like a parent buying a new car is such a big thing. And this was 1991, and I distinctly remember walking through this car dealership when we're looking at cars, and it blowing my mind that cars had cup holders.
Oh, yeah.
So, because prior to that, you're used to, holding your Happy Meal drink, like, between your legs, helping mom out for things like that as you're on the way home. And so it being, I remember when she'd be like, honey, what do you think of this car? I'd be like, does it have a cup holder? And thinking like, man, nothing's going to ever get better than this. This is the peak of car technology until about 7-8 years later, and it's time to buy a new car. And this car that she got, 2 cup holders in the front seat. I know. And then
in the middle console?
Yes, in the middle. And then I remember and that car wound up not being that great, so because like a lot of issues with it, then we wound up getting a car the next year, and then that car had cup holders in the things in the back seats. They were no longer the coach and first class in the car. You had 4 cup holders in the full automobile, and then you also had like the things in the side door that you could, if you're having more, you can modify into having further cup holders. Like, so basically, I wouldn't. This is me telling you, I'm a car guy.
Yeah.
I'm very much a car, but I'm a cup holder guy. Like, I appreciate the cup holder aspects. And one other, just like while we're doing car shout outs too, there's a guy named Crazy Al Kane, who's a rapper and comedian in New York. He had a show in the early 2010s called Spittin' in the Whip, where they'd have like a driver in the car and the rapper would be with Al Kane in the back seat, and he'd drive around like freestyling around New York City, and like he'd point to something outside and you'd rap about that. So it was cool. I recommend that for seeing some vintage 2010 car content with some, and there's some outstanding New York freestylers who are part of that too. So
Fuck yeah.
recommendation for that. And if you're driving a car and you hear the Troma Project, my new album, which is available everywhere now, the best one to play in the whip, I'd say, would probably be Radiation April. Like, it's got like a good like bass and like and a groove to it, so that would sound great coming through the going boom from the amplifiers. So. Yeah, and that album, it's available. My album, The Troma Project, 50 Years of Real Fan Toxic Hip Hop, available everywhere through Four Finger Distro. You can find me on all social media at Chaz Raps, Instagram at Chaz Raps, Facebook at Chaz Raps, and you can type the 8 magic letters CHAZRAPS. You can find me. I am also on air for The Current and NPR. I'm usually on The Current late nights on weekends from midnight to 5 a.m. in the beating heart of the weekend. The first Saturday of every single month at 10 p.m., I host Midnight Mayhem at the Main Cinema here in Minneapolis. Coming up in December, we have a special sneak preview of the new Silent Night, Deadly Night. January, we have a 25th anniversary screening of Donnie Darko. February, for both Black History Month and Valentine's Day, we have Death by Temptation, which was Samuel L. Jackson's first film, Bill Nunn's early film, very early Kadeem Hardison film. Director of photography in it was Ernest Dickinson, who directed Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, and was also the DP on Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. So it's a beautiful, amazing film. Highly recommend it. And then in March, we'll be showing the original Blair Witch Project. So a lot to look forward to on there at MSP Film or at the Main Cinema. And I'm also just sharing it through all of my socials. And yeah, Speak Minneapolis Public Access at SPEAKMPLS. But yeah, and once again, the Troma Project, 50 Years of Real Fan Toxic Hip Hop. You can find it. We have it on Bandcamp. It's available on all streaming services. So wherever music can be streamed or stolen or legally purchased, you can find it. And I'm also performing live. Let me rudely interrupt you.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's the rocking the mic. I have a show. I'll be performing live next in Minnesota at Can Wonderland on December 19th as part of an amazing local hip-hop showcase that's called Local Dope Shit. Which is hosted and curated by the great Christopher Michael Jensen, who raps on my album on a song called Choices of a Different Path. Phenomenal rapper. And so I'll be doing that on December 19th and hope to see anybody and everybody there. And yeah, and just keep, you can drive there or take any sort of ride share to get there. Anything, 4 wheels, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 18 wheels. we accept all kinds. Yeah.
I'm going to book you in Bismarck.
Oh,
you down?
I would love to go to Bismarck because you have a great con in Bismarck too, right? As in convention. What's the one? There's one out fairly outside. Isn't like a horror con that's remotely near Bismarck though?
Not that I know of.
BizCon?
I think we had like a BizCon 1 or 2 years, few years ago. Whoever did it stopped doing it.
Oh, because I remember like the lineup for that looking really good and almost like making the trip to do it. But so maybe it's time to do another one.
But some of my background is with music and promoting, so I definitely want to bring you to Bismarck.
Sweet. I would love to do it.
Fuck yeah.
Sweet.
Let's aim for that.
Cool.
Thanks for coming on, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
I just met you, and I think I'm in love.
The feeling is mutual. The sentiment is shared. Your first car, you know you loved that. Still remember when the shine on the hubcaps. Still remember the way it would feel the first time sitting back with your hands on the wheel. Your first step towards independence. You wouldn't even mind your few friends' dents. Either way, you know you have it wordy. Your memories, your first car, my first car. Hosted by Elijah Kirby.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's how you pronounce your last name, right?
Yeah.
Because if it was like Kirby, I'd be like, okay, well, I got to redo the whole thing now. So...